Again, welcome to this webinar on using quizzes to drive conversions. I have a lot of great people joining. I'm Liz, I'm from the community. I'm the one that pops around and answers your questions. We've got Elsa from our product team, TJ, who is the head of Bespoke at Blue Robot, and Olivia, who is a certified Zapier expert from the automated agency. I'll let them all introduce themselves shortly. While you're here, if you have any questions for any of our speakers, feel free to drop it into the Q&A in the chat. If you have any technical issues or just want to tell us about the weather or snow, if you're anything like where I am, feel free to drop that in the regular conversation. We will have time for Q&A at the end, so you'll get to ask all of these wonderful people all the burning questions that you have throughout. This is probably one of our most ambitious webinars, I think, as far as content. So grab your notepads or however you take notes. Get ready for a lot of information in the best possible way. And there will be a recording after, so if you miss anything or forget anything, you'll be able to watch it after. So with that, what are we going to cover today? So we're going to talk about why product quizzes, if you haven't used them, or why you should use them, what to do with all of that data after people take the quiz, how to make the right quiz and how to get it right. And then we have three great examples, both from TJ and Olivia, who are going to walk you through some real life examples of how they've implemented these quizzes and what they've done with the data after to make the most of those quizzes. And then we will have Q&A. So to introduce you to our lovely speakers, not me, I'm just here for fun, but I'm Liz, I work in community, and I'll let Elsa say hello.
Hi everyone, my name's Elsa. I'm a product manager, so I'm representing Typeform's R&D team of designers, engineers, and product managers. I work on integrations. I live in Atlanta where it's warm, but it's allergy season, so just be warned that that's coming your way.
If you sneeze, we'll know why. 'Tis the season, as they say. And then I'll let TJ and Olivia introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm TJ. I'm the head of Bespoke at Blue Robot, where we do custom solutions to improve brand performance. I'm based in Cape Town. Unfortunately, it is a miserable day today, but it's normally always sunny. It's great to meet everybody.
Hi everyone, I'm Olivia. I'm the founder of the automated agency and I am a Zapier solution partner. So I am here today to talk about all things Typeform and Zapier.
They both work some incredible magic, so I'm very excited for you both to see what they have in store because I know it blew me away. So if you haven't used a product recommendation quiz, you might be like, what is that? How is that helpful? If you've ever gone to basically any website that has multiple products, such as hair care or skincare or even chips, you might have gotten a pop-up that lets you narrow down what product you should purchase or what product would be best for you. I know for me, I fill these out all the time because I never know what skincare products to use. It's a really fun, engaging way to capture the attention of those people visiting your site, give them tailored recommendations, but then also create a unique connection with them that is personalized and tailored so you can follow up with them and give them a better experience based on those answers. And if you're wondering why you should use them, I'll let Elsa give you some of the data behind it.
Yeah, so we found, as Liz mentioned, that the engaging user experience is really the best way to get your customers talking with you. It helps you to maximize your ROI and marketing spend when you end on a form that is a product recommendation quiz, and you have the advantage of capturing zero-party data, which is super powerful, and we'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. But you don't have to take our word for it. We did some research and found some great information about how users interacting with quizzes feel about their experiences with brands. And 78% of shoppers were more likely to become repeat buyers. That's what we want. We also found that a whopping 80% of customers would recommend a brand or even pay more for a product based on their experience, personalized experience. And finally, the lead capture rate for quizzes versus traditional forms is a whopping 5x, and that can be super powerful for you as well. To get into the specifics of what zero-party data means, we're going to bring TJ back on. He's the expert in this, so I'm going to hand it over to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Elsa. So yeah, just to recap exactly what zero-party data is for those that don't understand or are not sure of it, it's basically an intentional interaction between a brand and a consumer, where the consumer shares their preferences, needs, purchase intentions, or even some personal information like name, contacts, number, email. And why that is so important is this data is provided directly by this consumer, and it makes it highly accurate and privacy friendly. And with that, with keeping that in mind, we need to understand where the future of data is heading. So having this data in our back pocket is really critical, because third-party cookies are starting to be phased out, and we need this information to ensure that we future-proof marketing. So know who to target, when to target, and how to target. And with that, we understand now that the data is actually really reliable because it's provided by the user and it comes with their consent. And when it comes with their consent, it establishes trust. And that is obviously really important, because establishing trust helps you build a personalized experience for the user by using the information you've gathered. And when you have a personalized experience, you create valuable engagement. And this valuable engagement leads to longer term interaction and higher conversion rates, which can increase your ROI. So with that keeping in mind, and to back Elsa's stats, I think I'm going to show you quickly just a case study that we run. A lot of you will be familiar with the brand Lay's, or maybe Walker's in your region. They ran one of these Typeform product recommendation quizzes, and the key crux of what they wanted to do was increase their zero-party data, as well as establish between two new flavors which is the favorite, and keep that favorite. They incentivized users by having a local getaway available. And I mean, the stats were quite incredible from that. They had a 700% plus campaign achievement for their KPIs, 2x of their zero-party data goal. And if I can just bring your attention down to the bottom left there at that graph, you'll notice that there's quite a steady amount of entries, a bit of a dip, quite a giant leap, and then it plateaus down. And that's something I'm going to touch on a bit later. But for right now, you're probably wondering, what do I do with all this information? I've got this quiz, but now how do I integrate that with Typeform? So I'm going to hand over back to Elsa to take you through that.
Thanks, TJ. So integrations are near and dear to my heart. As I mentioned, I'm the PM on that team. And one of the things that we find our customers really need to do is something with their data. Integrations using Typeform to power a workflow can help you automate and action an entire workflow throughout your tech stack. So it streamlines your process across your team. There's no information slipping through cracks. And also you have the ability to collaborate between teams who are using different software. So if your marketing team is using one thing and your sales team has to get involved or something like that, you can do that as well. And then it also actions a really seamless customer experience for you and your team. And I'm going to hand it over to Olivia to talk a little bit more about our Zapier workflows.
Thank you, Elsa. So Zapier is on top of everything that is natively built into Typeform and all of those awesome integrations. And then you can add Zapier onto that to extend all of that functionality. So when you're looking at this kind of thing, the same way that you would look at your customer experience, for example, you can do something very similar for your data. So when you look at a form, for example, you know what kind of data is going into that form, and you can consider what's going to be collected and what you can do with that kind of data. Then you, of course, set up your Typeform, have your customers go through it, and then you can act on that data by creating automations specifically with Zapier and Typeform. And the most powerful piece of Typeform's integration with Zapier is going to be their trigger that basically allows you to trigger an automation anytime a Typeform is submitted. And that will allow you to take your data, format it any way you want, and send it anywhere else you need it. So there are a lot of things that you can do with Zapier to add to the existing integrations in Typeform. And now we will talk about how to get it right.
So if you're wondering what to do with all of this, you need a quiz, you need to build it, Typeform and Zapier and all the things. I'm going to let TJ and Olivia and Elsa walk you through some real life examples on how to do this and how to do it well based on their experiences and all of the cool forms and quizzes that they've built. So I'll hand it back to you, TJ.
Thanks so much. So I think to dive straight into it, to understand how you need to get it right, we need to go through the 3 pillars that will grant you success. The first one is your strategy, and that is the why. So why are we doing this campaign, or what are we trying to get out of this campaign? The secondary is the design. So how are we going to make the success? What are we going to make it look like? How are we going to grab attention? And the third one is the market. So who are we trying to get information from, and what are we trying to establish about them? And how are we going to answer the strategy that's involved? So to take you through, we're going to run through 3 quizzes, but before we dive into each quiz example that we're going to show you, or campaign success, we're going to first go through each one of the pillars. First one we're going to run through is your strategy. So I say the term strategy, and you're probably wondering, well, what does that mean? You can't just say strategy and let me kind of sink or swim there. So I'm going to run you through maybe 5 key points on each one, just to show you what you need to think about and how you need to do that. And the first one of the strategy is trends. So pick up on your social trends and ride that wave. Find out what is relevant and leverage that with your consumers. The next is adaptation. So marketing, unfortunately, has no one recipe for success. We wouldn't be here otherwise. And that is the goal here, is to adapt based on what information you're receiving. And longevity. So there's not going to be one quiz that's going to solve all your conversion needs. You maybe need to have multiple. Change the quiz as you go. Find out what you have from the user. And then experimentation. So understand your outcomes history. So your successes are not the only important thing, so are your failures. Understand what you did wrong and how to improve that for the future. And then be synonymous. So make quizzes part of your strategy religiously, whether that's weekly, monthly. You cannot do something once a year at random for a random product and hope to get great success out of that and return on investment. You need to have a strategy where it becomes part of your everyday. And if I can take you back to that graph I showed with Lay's, this is a great example of where they looked at strategy, where it plateaued quite regularly, had a bit of a dip, and then a massive spike, because they looked at what they did wrong with the experimentation and they adapted and picked up on what trends they need to follow in order to gain success. And that is why that campaign turned from what would have maybe been an average or normal benchmark campaign to a great success and a 700% turn on entries. So jumping into the first example, we had a brand, New Balance, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. They did a Find Your Shoe quiz where they noticed that users were more regularly getting fit. So they picked up on those trends. There was more of an influencer lifestyle, and they wanted to tap into that conversation. Instead of having users just see content that they probably won't remember in the next thing, they got users to engage, give their information, and rewarded them with a discounted voucher straight to the store once they completed with the recommended shoe based on their answers. So someone who was maybe a slower runner or didn't run as far got a different shoe from someone who was a professional athlete. And that is the adaptation that I'm talking about, where they were finding new ways to understand this market and not relying on brick and mortar only to push product. And then they also looked at experimentation. So New Balance was quite synonymous with professional athletes, but instead of just relying on that, they looked at the everyday user and said, well, what is your feedback? And they got that and adapted that into their quiz. So this all is not possible without Typeform's great native features. And I'm going to hand over back to Elsa to just run through some of those that we.
Thanks, TJ. A couple of things that we wanted to highlight that enable these great outcome quizzes are multiple choice questions. You can see here that the user building the form is actually leveraging our AI tools to help with writing the questions. That can be a great way to scale your form and get a really good head start on the content you want to use. Another feature that we like to talk about is just the outcome quiz overall. This is how you would build an outcome quiz, which associates the answers in the quiz with the final screen that you want your user to see in the quiz. So for example, I'm a runner as well. I run about 30 miles a week. I want to be comfortable, and maybe the fresh foam is best for me. So this matches me to the product that works best, and I have a really personalized experience throughout the process. At the end of a form, you also have the chance to give a redirect. This can be a great way to action on the user filling out the form. So they get this specific end screen. So we're flipping through those here. And then we've sent them up to a product page to buy a New Balance product that they might be interested in. So you can really turn that user action into a transaction as well. And then I'm excited to show you today for the first time Typeform's native Shopify integration. I might need some help with the video. So we recently asked users what their favorite desired integration would be in our builder, and we built a Shopify integration which connects the responses from a form directly with a Shopify order. So when a user fills out a form, we can create an order in your Shopify account. And as I said, we're just releasing this now, so it's the first time anyone's really seeing it. We were able to do this with our partners at Alloy Automation. And you'll also notice that our friends at Alloy are based in Mexico, and so they are using our builder in Spanish, but many of us could also use it in English. Everything in Typeform is available in English and Spanish. So yeah, you'll see eventually this order arrives in Shopify. And as I mentioned, this was all based on a quiz that our poll that we asked our customers for the next integration they wanted. And so we were able to deliver it. Since I'm talking about integrations, it's time for Olivia to come in and tell us a little bit more about how you could use Zapier.
Thank you, Elsa. Those are awesome built-in Typeform features. So again, we are using Zapier here and it's setting up a trigger for a new form submission. And in this case, where we have a product recommendation quiz and an outcome quiz, you're probably already familiar with how you can take data specifically from the form submission and map it to data internally. So in this example, you can map tags in your CRM specifically to the responses in the form, or you could use AI and actually take the entire form submission data and then send it to AI by Zapier and have it select relevant tags. And then in that same workflow, we're seeing this all happen instantly. You can then add tags in your CRM or even start trigger automations in your CRM from Zapier as well. So there's quite a bit you can do to extend the functionality of Typeform, specifically when it comes to connecting your other apps, because Zapier can connect to over 7,000 different apps now. And with that, I think we can move to our next example.
Thanks so much, Olivia. So I think everyone's getting a really good sense of how these work together and the importance of product recommendation quizzes and getting this data. So the next one we're going to run you through is a predictor quiz. And obviously before that, we're going to take you through the next pillar, which is the design. So believe it or not, that is actually super important to capturing users' attention. And the first thing I want to run through is brand UI, where a lot of people may fall flat is they try and replicate their brand's website exactly on the Typeform itself, and they try and push all their logos and everything. And sometimes it's better to be more subtle and offer unique and engaging content to go through. The next is the journey link. So when designing a quiz, don't try and make someone feel like they're going through their high school end of year exams. Rather, keep it short, keep it simple, and just remember, the longer the journey, the higher the drop-off. The next is personalize it and change the scenery. So use logic to change your product images. If I am interested in, say, ice creams, and I choose that between two desserts and you show me chocolate, you're not really engaging with me. I feel like you're not listening. So you need to change your scenery, keep people involved. The other one is keywords. Generally, we see that users stop reading after 180 to 200 characters. So it's really important to stay away from text-heavy content. Typeform, again, has a great native feature where you can have a subheading, which helps with visibility and readability, as well as things like picture choices, where users are more likely to click on a button than input information via free text. And finally, and something else is personalization. So you would have heard me say that a few times throughout this so far, and that is really important. Audiences need to feel more connection with your brand, as it's a two-way communication. It's no longer just you audience member speaking to their brand and hoping that the brand is listening. Rather give back and create that fostering of connection. Then jumping into the actual quiz itself. So we did a quiz for Cadbury, which is a chocolate brand for the Rugby World Cup. So they tapped into a quite a unique thing for chocolates. You don't think, oh, sport and chocolates go hand in hand unless you're playing on a Sunday. But basically, that's kind of where they went into it. And the performance was fantastic. One of the highlights was that we had an 87% return on entries. And that's where we used Zapier to send users back to the quiz when the next round happened. So the winning elements from here was the brand UI. You can see it speaks about chocolates, it speaks about Cadbury, but it doesn't hit you with their branding in the face the whole time, nonstop. They use the chocolate block icon and things like that. The journey length, although the tournament was really long, I think 256 games or something quite crazy like that, what they actually did was broke it up per round, and then every time you got to come back and compete in the next round, and then the stats were sent and said, hey, you called 5 out of 8 games correct. Can you do better this round? And that's where we use the Zapier integration and Typeform's intelligence to get users back and communicate more. And finally, keywords. So you can see, instead of just saying the country's name or asking them to put in free text of who they think they are, when we use the country's flagged and product choices to help them choose. And again, with that, I think I'm going to hand over back to Elsa to just run through the native features we used.
Thanks, TJ. So one of the things that's really important, as TJ talked about here, is the brand. And I can't be the only person who has 45 files on their desktop that's a logo. How do you manage that in Typeform? The best way is through BrandKit. This is something that allows your entire team to collaborate using the same brand assets. And they can kind of really easily adapt and create new forms with those assets. So as you see, you have colors, fonts, logos, and special media that the users can add to any form and scale much more quickly. We love BrandKit. Another great thing that you saw in the Cadbury quiz is picture choice. So these actually function just like multiple choice questions, but they're a little more engaging and exciting, especially when you have something like chocolate to show off. The multiple choice questions that are pictures, however, can also be a part of the outcome quiz. That information can go through the integration. You can base your logic on it. So all of that is very great, like performance and ongoing ways to engage the user. You also saw the redirect to WhatsApp that TJ showed. So you can continue conversations in any place that you're finding your users. There's more that you can do beyond a product page as well. And finally, when you're dealing with a multinational audience to your quiz or anything like that, you can drive those experimentation options that TJ talked about with our results page. You get some high-level views of where people are, what they're doing on the form, and then you can also dig into individual responses on the table view here as well. You can also send the results to integration. So we're going to bring Olivia back in to talk about integrating with Zapier.
Thanks, Elsa. So in this example, we are looking at a massive campaign that has a social aspect to it as well. And this is one of those places where Zapier can really help on the internal side as well. So you can use Zapier for deeper insights on things like social listening by tracking that data and then automating some reporting, because of course, if we have a ton of data, it doesn't really do much if we don't actually look at it. So for social listening in Zapier, you can set up a trigger for a new post with that taste the action hashtag, and then just simply add it to a Google Sheet. And you can keep whatever information you want in that sheet. And then you can have a second automation that on every Monday using Scheduler by Zapier, you can ask for the previous week's data and then use something like Zapier AI by Zapier, excuse me, or maybe some of your own personal analysis, and then send that report to yourself or to your team. So there's a lot you can do here in terms of extending that functionality of Typeform. For the purposes of your internal team getting more and better data to make decisions with. I will pass this over to TJ for our third example.
Thanks so much. So I know I'm not supposed to have favorites, but this is my favorite example that we're going to run through. But obviously, before we do, we're just going to touch on that final pillar, and that is the market. So when you're looking at our market, we need to understand a few things. And one of the most important one is your omni-channel reach. You know, you're not going to promote on one specific platform and hope that you get everything from that one specific platform. You need to find your marketing channels and you need to leverage them. Then we got to look at the segmentation. So are you pitching to the right audience? So you got to ensure what you're doing, you're pitching to the people that it's relevant to, as well as incentivization. So this is something that's quite new. In today's market and landscape, we know that people expect something in terms of an interaction, and that is where you need to tap into the psychology of a short-term reward with your audience. It doesn't always have to be monetary. You know, we can look at different ways where there's maybe exclusive content to see something that hasn't dropped yet, clothing-wise, or you're allowing them a private invitation to the store for a new release of a product or something along those lines where you are incentivizing the user to interact with you because you're giving them something in return. The other one is ad formats. So use the right ad format for your outcome. Some advice we can maybe give you from Blue Robot is that of the couple thousand campaigns we've run in our lifetime, we've seen that static generally performs up to 10 times better with a strong, clear CTA than if you use video. And that is because when you have a static image, with a CTA, you're telling the user, interact with this. Whereas if you've got a video, maybe you're distracting them from actually interacting, and then they lose attention and they swipe to the next piece of content. And finally, analyze. So test your content. No one is always right the first time, unless you're my fiance. But you always got to make sure that your content is relevant and it's tested and it's updated as you go. So then to jump into the next example, sorry, the slides are jumping. This is my favorite example, which is Vaheen, a baking company. The performance was fantastic. So we actually saw 137% of their KPIs for unique playlists unlocked, and I'm going to touch on what that actually means now, as well as a 35% average time for completion. What you're going to see, what you're seeing on screen is probably quite confusing, where someone's interacting with the Typeform, all of a sudden they're on Spotify, and then they're on a baking playlist. And how this works is we integrate a Typeform through Zapier with Spotify's API to create a custom playlist for users where, based on their answers, they got a specific recipe and a playlist that matched how long that recipe was going to take to cook. And that was fantastic. So if we look at the winning elements from this campaign, there was obviously multiple channels they tapped into. So they understood they wanted to reach new market users as well as their existing market, so paid and owned media. And what they did is they leveraged things like their website, as well as social media posts, as well as leveraging the email marketing list. They looked at segmentation, so they understood who their market was, and they tailored the form specifically based on who they were targeting. So if they wanted to target the existing market, they had their form slightly different from the new markets. And then finally, the incentivization, which is they gave a user a unique playlist specific to them and their music taste, as well as giving them a recipe to go out and try at home. And this was during a time when a lot of people were spending their afternoons in the kitchen and their evenings in the kitchen. Now, you heard me mention something called paid media and earned media, and just to capitalize on exactly what it is so you understand, paid media is exactly that. It's paid media. So anything where you are paying to display your ads, social media or TV or anything like that, if you're asking an influencer to push trust for your brand by doing this out of home, any video awareness like TVCs, YouTube content, or you are the top search result on Google and you're paying for it to be there because someone's intending to find you, that's paid media. Then your own media is something slightly different, which is your social channels, so that's your organic following, the app if you have one, your packaging where you can include a QR code, your email base, which is your loyalty consumer, as well as your website where people are researching about your product and then you can get them involved. So it's really important to understand those two aspects and use them according to your strategy. With that, I'm going to hand over back to Elsa to run through the key Typeform takeaways.
Thanks, TJ. So some of the great stuff that you can use in a quiz like this would include variables. So variables are things that you might not want to show the user, but you could be contributing to the persona or contributing to how the user moves through your outcome quiz. They can be added per question. So a question can match with, for example, this one saying not Disney because of what the user is choosing for their playlist. And all of the variables can also be a part of your logic flow and deliver through your integrations as well. So they can be really powerful in situations like this. AI translation is a really great feature for those Typeform users who want to scale quickly. So you can translate one form into many different languages instead of siloing your international data in different forms with different results. It's a great way to scale with a global audience. And this is something sort of new within Typeform as well, and our users have been loving it. Another great AI feature that we released relatively recently is the Zapier AI Builder. In our Connect panel, you can write your idea for an ideal integration through Zapier in plain language, and this guesser will give you a draft of an integration. It's really powerful because sometimes we have things in mind and we're not sure exactly what terminology to use, but the guesser is pretty good about figuring out how we can action on the data in the most effective way. And now that I've said Zapier 3 times, you know that I'm conjuring Olivia for the next slide once again.
Thank you, Elsa. So this is TJ's favorite example for a reason. It's a really, really cool opportunity to personalize the experience for the users. So again, we are using truly the one and only trigger for Typeform is triggering on a new form submission in Zapier. And with that, we are going to catch all of the form submission data. And at a high level, there are some things going on with Spotify that are possible via API. And while those aren't natively built into Zapier, Zapier does have API functionality so that you can get really deep into all kinds of different connections to different apps. So in this example, they use the API. When they got a new form submission in Typeform, they said, hey, Spotify, send me some recommended songs based on those variables that we collected in that form, create a playlist of those recommended songs, and then send an email with their recipe and their playlist to go along with it. And this all happens with Zapier automatically, hands-free, and instantly. So it's a great way to really add on to the customer experience and just add more touch points. And with that, I think I am passing this back to Liz.
There's my video. Sorry, it's taking its time, and I have this fun annotate feature that I don't know how I turned on. So there we go. I know that was a lot of information, but like we said, we'll have a recording of this and you'll be able to access the slides. Because that was a lot of information, I would love to invite everyone back to kind of give their takeaways, like the one big thing everyone should take away from all of this. I'll start with
So
TJ.
I think, thanks so much, Liz. I think if I could give you one thing to just take away from all that information, is that every audience interaction is no longer an expectation, but rather a transaction. You need to communicate with your audience and make sure that they are involved, as opposed to them just contacting you.
And Olivia.
So my main takeaway for everyone today is that there is clearly so much that is possible with Typeform. You can build absolutely gorgeous forms and create amazing customer experiences for your customers. And tacking Zapier onto your tool stack can really unlock the full potential of all of that Typeform data, both for your customers and for your internal team.
Last but not least, Elsa.
Thanks, Liz. I just want to emphasize today that all the features I showed came from customer feedback and we want more of it. So one of the reasons I wanted to join all of you is to hear from you on what you want to see next. We're actually going to drop a poll for what integration you'd like to see next. So we'd love to hear from you the customer feedback is how we kind of fill our roadmap with all of these exciting things. Thanks so much.
And with that, my favorite part of this entire webinar are questions. So we have a few that have come in. James, you must be building, yeah, you're building a product recommendation quiz. I can see that from your questions in here. If you guys have questions, drop them in the Q&A and we'll answer them. First up from James. I've built a product recommendation quiz in the running space. I want to be able to present multiple options based on logic within the form rather than just as an ending, I assume. How can I do this? I might ask Elsa or TJ if you guys have any examples or answers on this one.
So you could use logic to build in a custom flow based on the answers, and and variables would be one way to do that. And then yeah, throughout the flow, you could like connect users to different parts of the journey, and you could also revert back to other forms. It's kind of hard to explain logic without using a visual, so I'm sure we can follow up with more information. TJ, have you done anything like this that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to jump in there. So we use that quite often. The best advice I can also give you, James, is when looking at it, your logic doesn't have to rely on just the previous question, and it can actually rely on a few questions back. And you just have to sit and map it out, almost like a mind map would. You would, and you say, if someone does this, then what do they do there? And you can reference certain questions further back. And they have a really nice mind map system where you can drag and move different things and see how your flows are going to work in the logic section.
Also, James, if it helps, we do have a Help Center article. I'm forgetting the exact title, but whenever I search for it, it's like how to, I believe it's like how to show different questions that are relevant. If you look up relevant in the Help Center, you'll find it. That will be the one to best help you. Also from James, is the ability to do an API call and return the data to the quiz, mid-quiz coming? That might be an Elsa question.
Yeah, so we currently have partial responses available, and you can use that via the API. And we're also starting to add some more on partial responses as well over time, so watch for that. But at the moment, you can have one partial submit point in your form and send data via API to your end stage from there.
Similar to that question, also from James. James, you must really be building out quite the product quiz here. I have a quiz, send to Zapier for logic, and then can only send to another link back to Typeform. Are there any comments on how to improve this flow? So essentially, it sounds like, if I'm reading this correctly, James, sounds like you are creating a form, gathering data, or sending data somewhere Zapier, having to send them back. I could be wrong, but any ideas on how to improve that? That was very wordy for me. That could be Olivia, could be TJ, maybe Elsa.
I was just going to say, managing the logic within Zapier from the Typeform response, you can only do it after the full form is submitted at this point, but maybe Olivia has some ideas of how to navigate that in Zapier.
Or if it's possible to use partial submit with that kind of part 2 of that question.
Not yet, but that's something that's coming.
Awesome. Good to know partial submits are coming. It's tricky when you're kind of doing many different things that you want to piece together. If it were possible to set up some kind of interface where data could flow in from Typeform using Zapier's interfaces, as data flows in, you can set some things up from there and have other automations triggered that way. You can have some visual data if you do have an interface somewhere, but that's tricky.
I know it's quite the setup. Also, James, if you want to drop a post in the community, we can also try to see if we can like set up an example on how to, if you're open to sharing your form, we can set up an example of like how to do it or see what you currently have and see if there's any suggestions we can make. Another question, is there a portal we can access? if you're referencing the webinar and the recording, that will be in the community. And I'll show those resources right when we're done here. And then another question is, where can we seek out one-to-one training to help build out a quiz? That's a really good question. I'll let Elsa, because I know you know about our partner program, so. But
Yeah,
also,
so, I think that for the most part, building a quiz is probably easier than you think. And if you want to challenge me on what I've just said, you could go to the community and blow me up, and I will help you through it. And James just asked how to connect with me. You can find me in the community as well, and Liz will make sure that I get back to you. So most of our customers can self-serve. Our customers on some plans have customer success managers they work with really closely for some of these topics. And then we also have a partnership program where we can refer agencies that help build all sorts of type forms as well. So you can, once again, reach out to us and we can get you those resources pretty easily.
that also being said, you do have TJ and Olivia here who are clearly experts at building extremely creative solutions, whether that is for product quizzes or Zaps. If you want to do something, you know, either simple or wild with your data, they definitely know what to do, and I know they've inspired me. Another question is, any recommendations for product testing with a specific audience and what apps to use? It's a really good question. I don't know who asked this one, but whoever asked it, do you mind? Oh, TJ, you might already have an answer.
I'm happy to jump in there from what I understand. So when you want to do product testing, I'm assuming you're talking about A and B testing on how to get the best out of your results. The best recommendation would be to find what audience has maybe something that aligns to you. So what market are you trying to achieve? If that is the Facebook market or the Instagram or the TikTok, setting up two sets of different creative and two different entry forms for your type form and seeing which one performs best and shifting your budget towards that and sliding it more that way so that you can understand what is going to perform. And then, you know, for the next time, based on these results, this was the best performance.
Just to add to that, one of the variables that you can use in building the form and building the quiz is a UTM parameter to see what your source is. And then you can track the performance of that either in Typeform or in your integration as well.
Another question from Luke. I am a commercial finance broker. That sounds very complicated. And want to use quizzes to gather data, but it's seriously in need of a currency field. Where can I request a currency field is added to the options? I can answer this one, unless Elsa, you want to. But Luke, if you want to drop in a comment in the community, I believe we already have a few threads in there. And then I do personally send all that feedback to our product team, as Elsa knows, because I bother her a lot about features people are asking for. So she gets it directly from me. But yeah, upvote, you know, add your comment in any of the threads that are existing or add a thread. And I'll be sure to send your feedback for that. If anybody else has any other questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A. I do have kind of one final question for everyone, or maybe not final, unless someone drops it in. But what do you recommend if people aren't sure what topic or product to use for their quiz? Any suggestions on even just in general how to get started with what kind of quiz or product recommendation quiz they should build?
I'm happy to jump. Yeah, I'm happy to jump on that one quickly. So I think it depends on what you're trying to achieve. So the first thing I think is to look back at the why. So your strategy, why are you doing this, and what is the desired outcome you want? With that, then you can decide on the design. So do you want to instantly reward users because you want to push a certain product and you want to do that? Or do you just want to find out more on your existing products? And once you establish the why, the rest becomes really easy to figure out.
Oh, we got another in the chat. I have a quiz to gather information from a lead, but I would like to offer recommendations as well. I'm not sure how to add the recommendation to my quiz. Any insights there?
So this is how, when you would use that outcome quiz function, and we can give a help center link there. And when you use the outcome function, you can, the outcome quiz, you get the user through the quiz, and then at the end, you can offer a specific recommendation based on the questions that they've answered. So I'm sure we have a help center article. I can look for it and drop that to you now.
And if we don't, always feel free to stop by the community, because if I don't have a solution, Elsa does, someone else does, or Des, he's one of our champions, has a lot of solutions, more than I ever have had. I have one other question. This might actually be for you, Olivia, but how should people even get started with building Zaps? Like, say they kind of have an idea. Do you recommend mapping it out? Do you recommend just sitting down in Zapier, play out? But any suggestions on what to do when you don't know what to do with all your data?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think people have a pretty solid understanding of a customer journey. And so if you can kind of apply that logic to your data as well, that can be really helpful in terms of just answering questions like, okay, we got all of this customer data. Where do we want to put it? Does it want to go in a Google Sheet somewhere? Do we want to add it to Airtable so we can do super cool stuff with it? Just kind of start there. Do I maybe just want to send myself an email or send the team, the marketing team, an email every time somebody submits the form? Like, good job, guys, looks great. They had so much fun. I think just having an idea of what you want to do. And then I always tell people to put it out in whatever format works best for you. So if you want to mind map it, if you want to make a flow chart, if you just want to write a bulleted list, that's fine. And then it's really easy from there because Zapier was built to be easy to build with. So from there, it's usually pretty easy to translate your human logic into Zapier steps.
Thank you. I know I sometimes sit down with Zapier and I'm like, I can do so much that I don't know what to do. Um, if another person commented, is there a way we can get assistance further? Right after this slide, I will share links for TJ and Olivia if you'd like to work with them. There's also our community, but in terms, I know Vicky mentioned that she's lost with Zapier. Sometimes I am as well. You can do so much that you don't know what to do. Zapier also has a really great community, and you also have Olivia here for help that you can reach out to. We have one other question. I already have a quiz for archetypes and selling in the outcome a product. Another quiz would be great for multiple product services I offer for sure. I have not yet understood how I can add Spotify and how useful that would be for me. Also, I'm a singer-songwriter. That would actually be very interesting. So combining my songs with the products. Do you have any ideas or can you show this again? Or actually, kind of a question, but maybe an idea. If you guys would be willing, we could also walk, if you're open to it, possibly walk through that workflow and post it in the community. That might be easier. I'm thinking. I could be wrong. Or TJ might have an idea of how creatively to bring all this together.
Yeah, there's multiple ways we can bring that together. I think logic is always your best friend when it comes to having various outcomes. And then in terms of the Spotify API, I would love to tell you that it was super quick and super easy. You do have to go through some approval processes, so it's always best to look to a vendor who has those connections. But it is something you can look to try yourself, and something you can definitely reach out to me to get that process started with.
Yeah, definitely a really creative process that I love. I was blown away when I saw all of the solutions you guys have. I'm gonna give it 1 or 2 more minutes to see if anybody else has any questions. While we do, don't forget to submit your vote in the poll for what integration you would like to see next. You have the person that leads that team here, so she will literally see your feedback. While I wait to see if we have any other questions, just some kind of next steps. If you'd like to get in touch with TJ or Olivia, you could scan the QR code here to get their contact information. I definitely recommend reaching out to them because they are absolutely brilliant and really, really great at what they do. I'll give it a second so you guys can all scan the QR code because I realize it sometimes takes a few tries when I scan a QR code. We'll also put their contact information in the community as well. So if you don't scan it now, don't worry. It's not your last chance to contact them. After this, we will have the recording in the community, most likely by tomorrow, possibly today, most likely realistically tomorrow. So feel free to stop by the community. You'll see the recording, you'll get the slides. And then if you have any other questions for Elsa, TJ, Olivia, we'll send them their way too. So feel free to add any comments there. And then please share your feedback. You will get a survey after this, obviously a type form, and also in the link as well. Please let us know how this went. I know it was jam-packed with info, so let us know if you'd like to see more of something, less of something, more jokes, whatever it might be, anything that would be really helpful for you. And then finally, be sure to download the playbook, if I could speak, to learn more about how to use these product recommendation quizzes, how to implement them, and a very simple walkthrough of how to build them. Vicky, we sadly don't have access to the chat after, but if you do have any questions, just let us know and we can send that information your way. Otherwise, I will give everyone 7 minutes of their day back or night. I feel like TJ, your screen has gone from day to night over there. So, and probably also for those joining in Australia, it's slowly becoming morning. With that, thank you all. If you guys do have questions, stop by the community or Zapier's community, reach out to TJ, Olivia, Elsa. I'll let everyone else say goodbye on their own.
Bye. Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all. Thank you for joining.